Greetings and salutations, fellow CAV people. I hope everybody is having a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday day. Welcome, Ilmarin. Thanks for subscribing. Hey, hey, hey. Anyway, well, welcome to CAV HQ Live, where I discuss everything CAV, or try to anyway. Answering questions, talking about upcoming projects, talking about what other people are working on, and just bathe in CAV glory. So, as always, we'll give everybody a few minutes to show up as they trickle in. Can't believe it's already been another week. Time flies. I hope everybody has been enjoying their summer so far, as it is coming to an end. I know it's been kind of still a medium crappy year with COVID and everything still being around. So I'm missing getting out. Let's see, do you have the wire where you can put it on the forums? Not quite sure why it thinks that put is a bad thing. Do you have the block numbers for the 8-ohm font where you can put on the forums? Yes, I can. I also have been intending on sending them to Brian at Fighting Piranha Games, graphics, to do decals. So I will try to do both. It doesn't take me very long. It's just, forget about it. It gets out of sight, out of mind. Because I've been working on block numbers for all the factions. That was one of the things that finally dawned on me, you know, when we were doing fonts and things like that for the different factions, and that they just didn't look right on war machines, and that's because we do fonts different for our vehicles and such than what we would use for other things. So need to get the rest of those updated so that they will be better for putting on your models. Plus, I think the Malvernus font is getting a pretty big redo. I never was happy with how it turned out. Looks too musical or something. Yes, yeah. No, I will, if you think about it too, tomorrow, message me and remind me. It's going to be kind of a crazy day tomorrow, but I'll be here for some time, so I'll try to get it at least put up on the forums for you. All my house stuff and things are slowly kind of grinding to a halt to get out of there. Yeah, speaking of buildings, I think Chris Similar put up, was it Will or Chris, put up some pictures of some buildings that he did. Some of the TT Combat ones that he got that are the block buildings that he painted up that looked really, really good the way they turned out. The TT Combat stuff, some of it is really good, and some of it is not. I mean, it's supposed to be for a sci-fi game, but it's not very sci-fi looking. It's kind of 50s Americana kind of looking. That's one of the reasons that, of course, now they've come out with a lot more sci-fi orientated stuff now that we're not carrying them anymore, but that's the way it goes. But we've got ours still coming. I've got several designs already done, and it's just a matter of getting them out to the laser and cut and put together and painted and ready. So we are suffering from, as always, too many projects and not enough folks around here. So it's between COVID and everything still carrying on and not finding, I'm not in the best area to find people that I need to do the kind of work that I need them to do, and losing both the boys here over the summer and going into the new school year. It's made it a little, as always, not going the way that I always wanted to go. So I always look at it this way too. It's like I tell my wife, is if I ever get caught up, that's the day I'll drop dead. So I mean, if at this point I'm going to live forever. But it's just, we finally got the basement crew done at our house, so our basement's finally done. Yesterday, we finally just got our new air conditioning system put in. So after living out of our master bedroom for the last 3 months, or 3 weeks, or whatever, 4 weeks, because I was able to put a window unit in there for us. We're ready to get out of there. It's very weird too, because now that both the boys have moved out, it's kind of weird. So I'm trying to get my home office all put back together too, so that helps me in the evening work when I'm at the house too. So. But around here, we are still moving some things around again, making this work a little bit better, building a couple of things. We've got everything hooked up, everything is set. We are finishing up our first batch of molds that I think are going to be good this time. So I'm hoping to have somebody in the next week or two that's going to come in that's supposedly a mold maker, or has some experience with that. So if I can get them moved off to handle that side of things, that would be great. I know that Chris is working on still working on the 28 millimeter stuff. He started this Saturday working on 28 millimeter versions of what we're in the process. We're going to go back and redo the light, heavy, and powered armor for 10 millimeter and optimize them so that for dual cast. Did you say that it's likely a new faction doctrine that will allow vehicles and CAVs to operate in mixed squads? It's not going to be a faction doctrine. We're still kind of deciding how we want to do it. I know that we talked in the past about okay, Willie, thank you. Good. I'm glad. I know those go out. I will say this: there is a good chance that you, because I think you just ordered the rule book a combo deal or whatever that I saw go through. We might have sent you 2 of those. So if you get 2 boxes with the same stuff in it, it's your lucky day. Or we sent 1 box to somebody else. 1 is definitely coming your way, 2 possibly, or somebody else is getting another one. All right, so Elman, back to your question. So when I had talked about a deal that we were discussing, we were kind of looking at just opening it up as, attack squads, fire support squads, et cetera, and just making it open and everything. But in reconsideration and thought like that, I want to change that up a little bit because, and you may or you may not agree, but after I kind of went back and thought about it, one of the things that I like about CAV, of course, you can play CAV however you want to play it, whether you do, but, and I know that James has brought this up about their, everybody kind of having a shared sense of how things go together. It's not as alien as it could be. But I think that keeping the base in there that, hey, if you want to play a true faction and you want to play with the faction rules and get faction doctrines, CAVs need to be in CAV squads. I mean, or however those particular, that faction does them or whatever. And Rock has 4 in a squad and Terrans have 5 and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a good thing. I think that it makes people that want to play that particular faction have to plan around that. It gives pluses, as far as like the Rock with 4, obviously in the same amount of points could field more squads, whereas somebody might do lesser squads with more models. So I don't think that I want to totally abandon that. I think that that's something that needs to remain and make people have that ability to do that. Obviously, you don't have to play it that way if you don't want to play it that way, but I like that. I like that gives some uniqueness, at least, to some of the factions. Now, with that being said, though, I know that obviously, in real combat, in the real world, sometimes different units get attached to each other. So you get some non-traditional mixes that you wouldn't normally see on a normal TONE for a special mission or whatever. So I think what I'm leaning towards, and we kind of have the specialist squad that kind of does that a little bit, but that's really not what it is. So what I'm thinking is that we add probably as a secondary unit, some kind of a mixed unit that can be, CAVs and vehicles mixed together, that are versions of, basically whatever the name of that particular squad ends up being. But you can do an attack version or a fire support version or a recon version and actually mix CAVs and vehicles in that squad. So if you have, if you're playing within the whole, the faction system or whatever, that at least gives you the ability to add squads if you want to, and mix them. Yeah. It would be a secondary squad that would be mixed. The only thing that could be in it would be CAVs and vehicles, and there's no set number to it, so it'd be the 4 to 6 like a normal attack squad or whatever would be. So it's not going to be limited to 4 like a specialist squad. But that would kind of bridge and give you the ability to to mix a squad as opposed to, and that's the reason I don't want to make it a primary squad, because then everybody will do is just mix squads, and that's all it'll be, and that kind of loses some of what we want to do. So I think by making it a secondary squad, you'll have the ability to add multiples if you want to. Legitimately, you could, if you really wanted to mix one up and build a unit like that, is you could go with an attack squad that would be all CAVs or all vehicles. That would allow you to make a secondary squad of this new whatever it would be called. Then you could also then buy a specialist squad and make another squad with 4 models in it to do the same thing, which would allow you a secondary squad that could again be this mixed one. So yeah, and I think that'll allow for some new mixes and still give us a framework for what we want. So, at some point, everything can get so simplified down that it becomes, everything's just a cookie cutter of each other. So we've got to watch that. We've got to keep, and really, here's what's funny is, I watched a YouTube video. I finally broke down, and so here for the last 3 months, and I've only missed 2 or 3 days, so I'm kind of proud of that. I have started going to the gym and walking in the morning, pretty, not just a simple walk, a good fast walk, and so I started out with 30 minutes, and over the last, each month I've added another 5 minutes or whatever. So I do 45 minutes. Well, quickly after the 30 minutes, I got where I was just ready to blow my brains out because I get, it just is so boring. It's not a matter of deal. So I finally rigged me up a deal so I could listen to stuff as I walk. So I've been listening to Audible books and some podcasts and stuff too, or turn a YouTube video on and listen to the sound. But actually this weekend I was at the house and I was watching YouTube, and there's a gentleman that runs a show, I believe it's called Tabletop Minions, that does a lot of game discussions and things like that. He seems to really focus on Games Workshop, and he earlier in the week, of course, Kill Team is in the process of coming out, and so earlier in the week he was able to do, and I guess Games Workshop put on some blackouts as to when you could post and everything. So last week he did a video they had sent him a Kill Team box. So he went over the box and everything that went on there, and seemed pretty hip about it overall. Well, this Saturday he was able to release his video for the real book. I guess you get a light version of it with the box set, and then you get the full rule book or how to set up because I think the box set just allows you to do orcs and Death Krieg, and I guess there's another box or another book that allows you to do all this stuff. But he was very disappointed in this book that he did on Saturday, and it's certainly a good video to go watch if you're listening to something. It's not a super long video, but he's really easy to listen to. So I like that on people. I know I'm not always the greatest one to listen to, so I enjoy somebody that does it well. After watching that and the things that he said that Games Workshop had done to Okay, the book he negatively reviewed is a book. Well, yeah, I kind of tried to correct myself. It's a Army list book as opposed to not the core rule book. I guess is in the box set, but there is going to be a core rule book you can get separate. But yes, the Army list book and additional rules or whatever. So anyway, the thing that he really talked about was how Games Workshop had simplified making these squads and really cutting down the ability to specialize your guys and do a lot of things. And, that made me think, kind of where my mindset with what I was trying to do with some of the squads and stuff like that, that maybe I'm trying to simplify them too much. And for the sake of conformity, and that we don't really need that. And so some of the things that he discussed were kind of some things that were on my mind. So anyway, I thought that was really good. All right, secondary squad mix, like a flight squad. Yeah. Let's see. Would the secondary mix type be able to take specialist units, like the new anti-air classifications? If they would not be able to take a model that was listed as a specialist, that had the SA specialist, it would be as they'll basically be a mixed version of your either attack, fire support, or recon. So as long as you have that particular role assigned to that model, just like in an attack squad, you could, if you took all 6, you could have 5 attack squad models and 1 fire support model or 1 recon model. So anyway, so you do have that. So, and that's kind of, I'm kind of still playing with a few things before I put this beta out for everybody to look over. And Willie says that he's a slow painter. I really, in the grand scheme of things, Willie, we are all slow painters. So we are there with you in the spirit. So don't despair. And of course, I'll have to go back and review my notes or whatever. I don't think that the anti-air models are necessarily specialist models or whatnot. I don't know. Maybe I was talking about that or whatever. It's just the SA is going back to being more of what it was as opposed to. So I'll have to go back and look at my notes on that one. Because what I might have said 3 weeks ago, I might have totally forgot with everything else going on. It seems like all I've done for the last month is sit at home and write checks. Between basement and plumber and school and, yeah. Well, Willie, we are certainly glad that you have decided to join us in the CAV universe. So we look forward to what you can come up with. Well, what actually is going to happen, Huntsman, is I am going to put out a PDF of a beta set of the updated rules. So this will have everything in there from the core rules and the essays and everything like that. There won't be no construction system or anything like that. This is just how you sit down and play the game. So we'll put that out. You'll be able to download it. We'll put a link up on the forum. We'll put it up on. We'll have it in lots of places. Anybody will be able to download this. So my hope is I want everybody, for the next couple of months to start trying some of the things out and get feedback. And a lot of the stuff is just carryover from the errata and things like that. But there's some changes as far as the way that we're going with target point rolls and things like that. And is get we obviously we have a lot larger player base now that we can kind of put this stuff out, and the game's already out there, so it's not like we're waiting for a release or anything like that. So once everybody kind of kicks the tires on that, and questions that come up, we can adjust it so that we answer it better or something like that. Then when we have that all cleaned up and ready to go, it'll come back out as a free downloadable PDF that anybody will be able to download, and it will also then be printed in the Rules of Engagement book. So that way you'll be able to get a printed copy of it as well with the campaign book. Then the construction system cleaned up and anything like that will be put in the JOR. So like I said, there'll just be extra sections in both books. That way nobody has to go back and buy a core rule book, and you'll get an updated set in those. Or you'll just be able to download the PDF if that's all you want. You had said the essay was going to be more of a specialist thing and implied that the dedicated AA units may gain a specialist essay alongside. Yeah, I kind of remember that now. That's probably it'll be. It's the main reason is I think that by pushing anti-aircraft back over to its own essay and making those units, I think those units will be a lot more powerful versus aircraft. Obviously we don't want to have zillions of them out there that totally deal. So that's still being tweaked a little bit. So they may end up as a specialist. Not sure yet. But the purpose of this is to, we brought this up before. It's rather than kind of being, I don't want AA to be slapped on to another model. I want the model to be built to be an anti-aircraft unit. So, by pushing the SA over to its own again and working together, it'll make them much better. It'll make you have to, if you want to keep your AA units, you're going to have to protect them, and B, by the same token, you're not going to have somebody put so many of them out there that you can't get an aircraft out there. Because like I said, it's we just don't want to have a billion of them out there. So and there's a couple of other things too, that'll help with air, that we're going to have. It's still being tweaked a little bit, but you're not going to have to track levels of elevation as far as each turn or whatever, but there's basically going to be 3 levels of combat for aircraft. There, of course, there's the NAP, the NAP of Earth. There's going to be a normal flight level, and then there's going to be a high flight level. So, and those levels work kind of separately from each other. So it'll allow aircraft to have the ability to move some without necessarily being shot down immediately. They won't have the ability maybe to interact with the board while they're doing that, but and that gives us aircraft a little more of a 3-dimensional feel to it without us actually every tracking, I'm at level 15 or level 14 or whatever. So, or I'm, how many levels I'm in the air or whatnot. And it may be after you guys get the beta version, you're, oh, this sucks. It doesn't work. But I think that with what I've kind of played with it so far and discussed and put out there. No. No, there's no math involved in it like that. It's strictly going to be, basically if you're flying at the whatever the highest level is named, basically the only thing that can happen up there is air-to-air combat between aircraft. Whereas at the middle level, you have the ability to fly and do like you normally would do, and then or go down to nap of Earth. So basically all we're doing is adding a third level to the top so that aircraft that is capable of using that higher area or whatever are able to fly around up there and do something particular or whatever, but they won't be able to influence the board. But it kind of gives us ability to have some more of the air superiority, the fighters. You'll be able to have actual aircraft fights. No, we're not going to get that quite that crazy. What I envision for this is it's a place for, like I said, air-to-air combat between fighter planes, aircraft, that might add kind of a new element to the game, but it would also allow you to maybe seize air superiority as well. So, but as far as figuring out how high you are and shooting and all that stuff, no, it's nothing like. It's just we're adding that extra level up here at the top. Everything else will be the same as what we've already got. What's funny is years ago, when right after BattleTech just came out, it was originally Battle Droids and it switched over to BattleTech. Right after that, FOSSA did a tie-in with Top Gun, and they did a set of fighter rules, fighting on a hex map between the aircraft from Top Gun, the F-14s and stuff like that. Pretty good set of rules. The way that it worked, it did what it was supposed to and everything. And there was an actual, on the last page, there was a tie-in to use those rules for BattleTech. They actually put a section on the very back page, how to use this with BattleTech. They kind of formed the basis of those rules later, kind of became the Aerotech rules. They did a lot of changes and made it a lot clunky than, from what it was in the Top Gun box to what the original Aerotech was. It was clunky. But I mean, and at this point, I mean, you can already have. I mean, if you just want everybody just take aircraft, you can take aircraft and play a game. But I think that, like I said, I want to have the ability for planes to have more interaction with each other, and maybe not always be having to be as cognizant of being shot down from somebody when they really wouldn't be that low and available to shoot. Also, there is, and I've been meaning to get on it's just been crazy this last week. On top of it was crazy to begin with, and it got super crazy this week. There's a video floating around, and I'll get the link and put it up, of, because what made me watch this and look at it is, there was a conversation on a Facebook post or something that we were talking about anti-tank weapons and how they could be used or shot out of a the back of a truck or anything like that. And, there was some people that were, oh, you really can't do that, or, and stuff like that, which is not true. I mean, they literally, over in Afghanistan, when we were giving them the Mujahideen, the stingers, they were standing in the back of trucks shooting stingers, and obviously you don't want to be right behind it for the back blast or whatever. But the conversation turned on ways to how to use the javelin. And I don't remember all the different things that was there, but basically we had a couple people that were like, hey, there's no way you can be in a javelin, or you'd be in the back of a truck and shoot a javelin, or be behind something or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, so there's a video up on YouTube about, and I think if you want to do it before I find it and put the link back up, is different ways that the armies of the world that have access to them use the javelin. And I think you'll be amazed at some of the things that they use a javelin for and how they can use a javelin. It's not nearly like some of the older, like the toes and stuff like that, or, even the laws, when you pop those open, you do not want to be in the back blast. And obviously there's still some back blast that comes off the javelin, but it's a control deal, and you take into account what's going on. And it's pretty interesting video. So, hi Tiger, how you doing? Yeah, if you read, there's a great What If book called, Team Yankee, which they recently, or over the last couple of years, did a game. But Team Yankee was around a long time before they ever did a game. And I actually read the original book, and then I also have a graphic novel that somebody came in and did that's, I don't know, it's 3/4 of an inch thick or whatever like that. But it's pretty cool. There's the way that they use toes and stuff in there. It's pretty cool. It came up on a Facebook post. Somebody was asking about the Warden Bee and the Thor, and I think Dave, you might have been that they were top on the list. They're not really high on the list. We've got a lot more models in front of those. I do want to get them out as soon as possible too, as well. And I really think it's going to take us between now and the end of the year to, and I'm not saying, oh, by the way, no minis are coming out till December. I'm just saying, I don't think we're going to be up to our full potential probably till after the first of the year. We're still dealing with the learning curve. We're having some supply issues getting material in, and we're in the process of working around that right now. So I wouldn't expect them till probably December. I made that note on there today that they're on the list. They are a high priority, but there are a lot of stuff in front of it. So I know that it has been several over the last 4 or 5 months of, oh, it's coming out next month. It's coming out next month. Tell them not to make you drive that big red truck down there. Well, we're working on finding some different suppliers now that we've got access to some of the stuff. It's hopefully that we won't have a problem with that supply chain or whatever. But we're going to work on that and some of our models, and there's just a lot of parts that are moving in this. Yeah, well, it's supply, it's time, it's work, people to work. There's people that have the right mindset. These are simple things to do, but they're also hard things to do if you can't wrap your brain around them. And that's this is a conversation that I've had with several sculptors and that I've talked with, some of you guys with and stuff like that, is there are piles and piles and piles of people out there making models now for you to download for free and whatnot, and they look great on the screen and everything like that. But there's an art to that stuff, and to actually make it so that you can put it in a mold and produce it is a whole nother level of, a lot of that stuff is hard just to 3D print, because they build the model and they stick it out there and they save it as an STL, and you download it and try to print it, and it, the head of it ends up printing on the butt or something like that. And that's also, if you try to print some of that stuff down to even at 28 millimeter scale, it looked great on the screen, but it really doesn't print out that well, or the pieces are so little and so thin that they just snap or break, So there's a whole nother level of from a sculptor's point to make sure that they understand what they have to do to make a model that is castable. And that holds over to someone that makes the molds. Is there's a certain way that those figures have to go into a mold, or you can put anything in the world in a mold, but you may never get it out. Stuff gets buried and stuff like that. So there's a whole process there. And, right now being bottlenecked down to one person, that makes it kind of rough too. So, like I said, I'm hoping that this person that I've got showing up is what they have said that they are, and that will certainly help us. We are going to be hard pressed to start getting models out this month. Again, with all the situations that I've already explained, and where we're at in real life and everything like that. But we are close. So I feel relatively confident to say that we will start seeing models in September. So, and once they start going, they're going to get going. So, we've talked about Trenchworks as doing our masters for us. So, they've had to work their schedule into things that they already had planned, and now that they're getting into this, so we're getting on with a regular schedule with them. So we have to make sure that we have our models where they need to be for them, so that they can be making masters, so that by the time we're ready to make molds, that they have our masters in hand. So lots of working parts. Things change on a daily basis. What we thought of work yesterday won't work tomorrow. There are, companies that are working with a similar version of this, that are luckily helping us to get through the rough spots too, so that helps. But I do want to bring that up over and over and over. Make sure that when you go out and buy STL models, think about what it is you're trying to accomplish with that. I know that there was, and what's funny is there's been lots of especially with the things that Game Workshop has been doing lately and stuff, there's been a lot of videos and Twitch streams and stuff coming up about how 3D printing is going to be the death knell of the game industry, and I don't agree with that. And we've kind of talked about this before. I think that Games Workshop is going to have problems because they're trying to sell you $40 and $50 models. So that's one of the big conversations that we had day one, that I talked with Ed at Reaper when we very first started talking about the very first Bones Kickstarter and plastic minis and everything like that. Is a lot of people are, well, aren't you worried about, counterfeiters or people like that and stuff like that? And you got to understand that most of your counterfeiters don't counterfeit models because they want that model. They counterfeit a model because they can sell it and make money off of it. So when you have $40 and $50 models, there is you're building in that pricing level that counterfeiters are willing to go for. At that point you sit back and go, man, I need 6 of those guys and I don't want to pay $300, but this guy will sell me 6 of them that are basically the same thing, maybe not as perfect, but pretty close, for $25, and people are going to be that way. For a lot of people are going to be that way. $5 and $6 models, there's no financial incentive there to copy those things. And that's the same thing that you're going to see with 3D printing, is there are going to be the diehards that are going to 3D print everything just so they can stick it to the man. All right. And that's really nothing to worry about because they're probably not buying your stuff anyway. So you don't really have to worry about them. But, as long as we can keep quality up and price down, the majority of people are going to keep buying our models or whatever models that they're buying for whatever their game, just because of the ease factor. It's ready to go. I don't have to dick with anything. It's already out there, but companies like Games Workshop that are charging a premium for their minis, 3D printing is going to take a bite of that. So that's something that they need to be, and I know that they're being realize that the writing's on the wall. So, but like I said, just make sure that when you're getting these 3D models, if you do get them, especially there's a lot of the MechWarrior game models or whatever from Piranha Games or whatever, that they've let people download the models for those, and people are converting them over into STL prints and stuff like that. But I've opened up a couple of those, and if there's a lot of work to get one of those to print, and they've got holes in them. They're just a mess. And I've seen that in a lot of the Kickstarters that I've backed, that I've got. I'll see some Kickstarter for some, STL files for some sci-fi game or whatever like that. I thought, oh, those would be cool. I'll print one out on the printer and stick it on the board and it'll be good. And I would say 75% of the models that I've got in a Kickstarter, they're not printable right off the bat. I've got to go in and take time to fix them. So, yeah, and that's the other side. I mean, obviously, 3D printing stuff that you can't, that there's not out there, or you've got your own design or something. That's a whole nother deal out there. But I'm talking about it's being 3D printing being the death knell of the game industry. It's not going to be that way. Obviously, if everybody started 3D printing minis, it would have a negative effect, because there's nobody going to trying to be a miniatures company and just sell books is just nuts. Right, and that's our goal. I mean, I'm trying to keep our models in the. We're trying to stay in the $5 to $8 range. I mean, that's where we need to be. And we've had a little bit of a price increase as the Kickstarters have gone up, and as we move into this new dual cast. They're not huge, but it just takes into account, and part of it is just how everything is more expensive to buy anymore. I went and bought some 2x4s to build a couple of things. I'm like, oh my God, I'm paying, $4 for a 2x4 that 2 years ago I paid, under $2 for. So, and at the end of the day, I do this more for the gaming side of it anyway. So gives me something to do, keeps me in the hobby. So again, if I wanted to make $1 million, there's a lot of other things I could be doing. so yeah, no, I think the time before that I paid, that I bought 2x4s, 96-inch 2x4s, I think they were $1.89 is I think what I paid for them. And I bought some the other day, and they're like $4 and something. It's nuts. I think they said the average house now costs $20,000 more to build just because of the cost in wood. I lucked out with my kids. They only eat like 5 or 6 things, and it's mostly cheap stuff. If I cook them a steak every once in a while, or some chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes, that kept them over till. So they are always big. They love macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles, and yeah, and they don't eat very much. So. And luckily, I used to have another business, and I had another location in a town about 20 miles from here. And just out of the blue, somebody contacted me about wanting to purchase the property. So we're actually closing on that tomorrow. So that's another big headache that I don't have to worry about. Well, thank you, James. I take pride in my pancakes. I like my pancakes. That's my pancake recipe my mom taught me, and her mom taught her. So good old-fashioned pancakes. No Bisquick for me. But my main thing right now is I just want to get through that side of things. I'm ready to get back into the creative side of things. I want to make sure we get our, more stuff out there, more background, more stories, more stuff. It was never my intention to spend most of my days worrying about getting miniatures out the door. So, as I figure out ways to smooth that out and move that off to somebody else or whatever, that will help immensely with us getting stuff going. I've brought in a couple more other people to help me get some stuff out. So, did anyone ask a question about Discord about the aircraft come down from drop ships or their own special carriers? Well, they are both. So obviously, if you have an aircraft that is unable to come in from an orbital without orbital engines or whatever, they would have to be inserted and come down in a drop ship. So I would assume that there are other drop ships out there that I'm sure that they have built drop ships that are exactly for no other reason than to bring aircraft down to the ground. There are drop ships that are probably mixed out there that have the ability to carry CAVs and aircraft as well. And then, of course, there are drop ships that can carry orbital fighters they would be able to launch out in space for protection. And then you're going to have carriers. There's carriers out there that's all they do is carry space capable fighters for that particular reason. And there's other space type aircraft. Spacecraft is they're actually because there's no you have basically anti-ship spacecraft that would be equivalent to like a dive bomber or a torpedo plane or something like that are strictly for attacking other ships that you would have no reason for them to come into the atmosphere. Pull a Battlestar Galactica and drop it in the atmosphere to launch fighters. You could do that, possibly. The main thing that I always try to we're talking about, 500 years in the future. We're talking about alien races. We're talking about a vast space out there. Pretty much, if it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't have to make sense, I guess. If you can think of it, somebody's probably done it. So if you need to have that in your game for whatever reason or whatever, obviously we can't get into that minutia at this point. But hopefully down the road that we'll have more and more time to delve into some of those things once we kind of get caught back up with the infrastructure side of things and get that done. I spent way too much time on YouTube this weekend. It was funny. Periodically, I go get on YouTube or whatever and do a search for CAV strike operations because videos get put up all the time that of people doing things with CAV, whether it's painting, it's amazing some of them that pop up that are out there. And there was a gentleman that had a video up, and I want to say that it was probably from 2 months ago, 3 months ago. This is the first time I saw it on this weekend. But the reason it caught my eye is he was talking about something about BattleTech, but he had a copy of the second JOR, I think, from first edition that he had in his hand, and he was shaking that in the thumb clip. So I went and looked at it, thinking, here's somebody bashing CAV that's a BattleTech faithful or whatever. And what was funny was he was actually talking about some of the things about BattleTech. One of the things that James brought up that I've quoted before that I think is so cool is BattleTech is death by sandpaper. You grind, you sand off all that armor before the guy dies. And so this guy basically, he was like, hey, I played BattleTech and I enjoyed BattleTech, but here's problems with BattleTech. So he goes, so then we have CAV, and he said, CAV did this and does this well, and but why didn't CAV catch on? Why is CAV a dead game? And he goes, here's the CAV rule book. He said you can find them on eBay for $5 or something like that or whatever. And what was funny is he doesn't realize that CAV is still out there, that we're basically on the third edition of the game, that we have new miniatures, that we have things that are out there and whatnot. And that's not even the rule book. That was a source book, for first edition. So it's a short video. I think it's only 6 or 7 minutes long. I've been going to get on and just do a, hey, just FYI, CAV is still here. We're still doing our things. We come back and have been strong since 2015, and we have new minis coming and all kinds of stuff. So, but anyway, it's kind of it did not meet my expectations as to what I thought I was getting ready to watch, which I thought was going to be all bow down to the graces of BattleTech. So it was kind of a cute video to watch. I'll try to put the links up on the forums with some of these videos I've talked about. No, I don't think it needs a response video. I just hey, just so that you know, not all your facts are 100%. I totally agree with what you're saying about the games, but CAV is still here. We obviously do not have the player base of BattleTech, and they have certainly grown, and with their their Kickstarter certainly brought in a whole new crop of players. They have lots of people that have crossed over from the MechWarrior game, the latest version, that saw it and have tried it out, and obviously they've tried to do some things to do that, but it still suffers from the same problems it always had. And believe me, I'm not trying to talk BattleTech down. I love BattleTech. I was a BattleTech faithful, and just the direction that they went with the game is peeled me off from that. But I love playing BattleTech as it was originally meant to be played, and the things it done, and with all of its warts and the extra time and everything like that. When you have the time to do it, I enjoy playing it. But I'm filling in the bubbles. Yeah, no, and it is. You have to accept it for what it is. But I think part of that goes back to I'm a much older gamer than I think the majority of you guys are. So I'm used to playing iron ships and wooden ships and Iron Men and lots and lots of games that we did little dots and everything like that. I'll go to my grave saying one of the best games I ever played was Centurion. So and it had kind of a version of that, not nearly checking off the deals, but with my battle hex. Yeah, when I was doing our advanced squad leader, yeah, it was Battle Hex was the product that I sold. I made some gargantuan boards for Battle Hex, out of Battle Hex for when I played BattleTech. There's a lot of stuff that I did commissions on that are still out there that are being played. So every once in a while I see a picture pop up and I'm like, oh, hey, I remember building that. Matter of fact, I had one of the guys a long time ago that I did 2 or 3 for. He got a hold of me the other day and wanted me to build him a hex board with a kind of a World War I theme. That he wanted to play BattleTech with trenches and all that stuff like that. And his name's Daryl. I was like, Daryl, I'd love to, but I said, I've got so many things going on. I can't do it as much as I'd like to, especially with the resources that I have now that I didn't have back then. I said, it'd be awesome, but I just don't have the time. So, and I've already been, I kind of swore, I was like, after I got this, because I'm still kind of tweaking my desert board and everything like that. And I was kind of like, no more. I can't keep building all these big projects and everything. But I've already got the bug again. But I'm pinching myself to keep from jumping off onto something else. But it's the main thing that we have, and we've talked about this over and over with folks and stuff like that, is we're not getting stuff out as fast as we need to. Games live and die by what's new, what's shiny, and stuff like that. And we're working on that. We're trying to get better about being there for that. But it's a problem but every game is really, it's hard to find. There's so many games out there now that people just bounce from one game to the next game, depending on how many players are in your area and how many things that you go on, and interest is one, and we don't have the free time, it doesn't seem like, that we had 10 years ago. So and I've had that whole conversation about I think you can get too simple with the game, and I never want to be that with CAV. I never want CAV not to be a game that doesn't challenge you a little bit to think. So whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but that's just, again, I play. If I didn't enjoy playing the game, I wouldn't be selling it. So if I can't sell a game or ask you to buy a game that I wouldn't play. Speaking of Tiger, I don't know if they've made it a public announcement or whatever, but I got an email today from one of the powers that be with NashCon. Apparently they've had a lot of GMs drop out. I'm assuming because of COVID and so forth. So I know that you were planning on going and everything. So kind of keep that in mind, that they are having some problems. All right. Any last minute things that I can kind of touch base with before I call it a night, since I've already gone over? But which is all good. I don't mind going over when we're having good conversation. I think, cross your fingers, that because I was thinking about this earlier today, I'm going to try to have a scenario written up for next week. I'm going to try to get a table set up with some ideas for it, and kind of talk about it during the session. So make sure to tune that, and then of course I'll make it where you can download it and stuff like that. But we can kind of get into some. I'll have some notes with the lore and some background and stuff for it. So it's now that I've got rid of some of the real world problems at home out of the way. It's one of the things I've been trying to come up with, some things to make our Wednesday nights a little more interesting as we move into new things and stuff like that. So, one of the things I want to be able to do is share some battle reports and, have some unique scenarios and stuff like that we can mess with. So the campaign rules are going to be in the ROE book. The JOR book will be kind of like a technical readout, but will also have the updated construction system. The rules of engagement book is the campaign rules, and then we are adding as an additional section the reprinting of the core rules so that you have them in a book. But as far as the JOR and the ROE as being a PDF in of itself, as of right now, there's no plans to do that. I know people have asked, hey, I want an electronic version or whatever, and it may be something that we will look at down the road about doing. That's just not a bridge I'm ready to jump off of yet. So the rules of engagement book is going to be a standalone book. It'll be what it is. The JOR, this will be the first. So technically, it's going to be JOR 1. Hopefully that we will have, once we get the first one out and finished and done, and we have better idea of what we need, then we will continue with more JORs. The main, after those 2 books are out, the main thing that we will be focusing on to get new stuff out there are the flashpoints, where we will take particular sections of the universe and really focus in on those. I do want to get at least a bi-monthly, some type of magazine, magazine, some kind of electronic or document or whatever, that we will be able to start sharing more background information and stuff like that as well. So my hope is right now we are pushing towards, and we'll certainly, I mean, if you have a story that you want to put out there and throw out there, especially if you're willing to accept a little bit of editing or whatever, so that we can make sure that it kind of fits into the overall theme of the game or something like that. Would always be interested in that, if that's something that you wanted to do. Obviously, if we can get our bi-monthly magazine up, and which, by the way, the name of it is Full Auto. That's actually been a project since CAV1 that I have been working on. You'll actually find in the very first edition of CAV, the back section it was a kind of a joke cover for that magazine, and it's called Full Auto on there. So, and we would certainly want to have more fan-based kind of things in that magazine. We are, I'm, I've had that conversation before. We are not going to battle tech CAV, okay? You're not going to be able to, from 5 years from now, go up and look at the 100 books that are sitting on your shelf. We're just not going to do that. That is, I especially from a fan side of it, I guess, and if you're into the fluff and everything like that, that's great to have all those books. But I'm just not into that. I don't have it in me to put those kind of books out. And right now we're at a position that I can't necessarily just turn somebody loose with a source book. Hey, I need this book like this, because we don't have enough stuff out there. We don't have enough background. We don't, I'll spend as much time helping somebody else write a book as if I just wrote it myself. And I don't have time to write another book. Just trying to get the JOR and the rules of engagement out the door is about ready to kill me. So ideally, and schedules change and everything like that, and a deal like that is, but because I brought a couple of people in to help me, is we are finishing up the first flashpoint, which really focuses on the Terran and the Rock. Ideally, I would like to have that done in the next 2 months. The JOR, I am looking to have done by the end of the year, and then the rules of engagement will be releasing at some point in hopefully the first quarter of next year. So now some of you I'll be approaching some people to, as we get a little further on the campaign book, we'll probably approach a few people to give them some early versions of it for them to kind of look through and kick the tires for us a little bit. So be nice to me if that's something you're interested in. But we're still ways down the road for that. Well, and that's where those stories need to come in. Is there's lots of rooms out there for to build stories about a unit or a person or something like that. We're not looking for stories that are talking about how Adenese commandos break in and kill the Rock Emperor and stuff like that. We don't. That's not the kind of stuff that I really. It's the little nuts and bolts stuff that you can that you want to write about. And they're early in his career, so they're not always necessarily the best written books. But to my dying day, the best novels that were ever written for BattleTech were the very first 3 books for the Grey Death Legion. Decision at Thunder Rift is one of my. I read that book over and over and over. I love that book. The way that it introduces you to the BattleTech universe and talks about little tidbits here and there of how these small one-lance merc companies work on these backwards planets, and and obviously there's the overall story that goes into that, and how that unit grows through the 3 books, and the effect that it has at the end on the whole galaxy with finding the memory core. I love those books. I absolutely love those books. No, it was William Keith. And he actually wrote, I think he wrote the Bolo books under another name, or maybe he did them under his. He's written a bunch of stuff under another name. I know that he's done some recent stuff, and I think that the name that he uses is Ian Douglas. It's some kind of a Space Marines, or the Army in the future or something like that. Yeah, Stackpole did he did the first of the war books that took you into the Davians attacking Liao and all that stuff. Keith Laumer was the Bolo stuff. Okay. Oh no, William Keith did. It wasn't Bolo. It was another kind of a mech series. About they were fighting some kind of alien mechs that had like the liquid Terminator deal or whatever like that. What were those books called? But I think he did them under the William Keith. But I know he's been doing some stuff recently under Ian Douglas. So, all right, folks. If James says it's time to go, it's time to go. But I will say this: if you have never read any BattleTech books, read exactly, and that's one of the things too that I look at. Willie, sorry, is I don't want to pigeonhole everybody into this. I want there to be enough room. I'm giving you the broad strokes here, and I want you guys to fill in the I want you to make your stories in the game universe. So, and we'll fill in stuff as it needs to be. We're going to be, we've talked about this before. We are moving into a galactic war. So be ready for that. We've got a lot of stuff that's really going to really churn up the waters there. So anybody. All right. Well, and good night to you, Fireball Tech. Thanks for showing up. Willie, we're glad to have you. Good huntsman. I look forward to seeing something from you. And but as I was trying to finish up, so if you've never read any BattleTech books, or you like a mech, want to read a mech book or whatever, please read Decision at Thunder Rift. It's not always the greatest written as far as great editing or whatever at the time. It was good enough for me. I didn't spend a lot of time fixing things in my mind. But if you want to know what I think is good universe kind of stuff for a mech game or whatever, that kind of gives you an insight to my thinking. So, And they're up on Audible. So if you want to you can actually download them and read them or listen to them now. So at least the first one is. So, all right. Well, good night, everybody. Love, happiness. I will see you next Wednesday. Chris will should be Saturday working on the 28 millimeter figures. And like I said, those 3 figures that he's working on, those are going to we're going to do another version of them smaller, which will end up being the light, heavy, and powered armor that we will be releasing in dual cast. Well, I hope NashCon goes well for you. I miss not going to a show, but I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going to wait till after the end of the year, but I'm making a list. I am trying to even try to get to Adepticon next year. I don't know if that one's going to happen, but I am going to try. But there's going to be a lot of, I know we're looking at CincyCon, we're looking at NashCon for next year, stuff like that. So anyway, Little Wars, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, good night, guys. Thank you for all your support, and I will see you around. May all your dice roll 6s.